This was the first lunar rover mission since Lunar Code 2 in 1973 and the first lunar soft landing since Luna 24 in 1976. In 2014, the first privately funded probe, the Manfred Memorial Moon mission, reached the moon. Another Chinese rover mission, Chang'e 4, achieved in early 2019 the first landing on the moon's far side. 236. Also in 2019, India sent successfully its second probe, Chandrayaan-2, to the moon, and China in 2020 carried out its first robotic sample return mission, Chang'e 5, bringing back 1,731 grams of lunar material to Earth. 237. With the signing of the US-led Artemis Accords in 2020, the Artemis program of the US to return in the 2020 astronauts to the moon, 238, has been joined by a growing number of countries. The introduction of the Artemis Accords has fueled a renewed discussion about the international framework and cooperation of lunar activity, building on the Moon Treaty and the SR-led Moon Village concept. 239, 240, 241. The different, since 2004 developed plans, 242, of the US to return astronauts to the moon accumulated in the Artemis program, include the plan to send the first woman to the moon, 243, and the plan to build an international lunar space station called Lunar Gateway. Future upcoming lunar missions include Artemis 1 and Russia's first lunar mission, Lunar Glob, an uncrewed lander with a set of seismometers, and an orbiter based on its failed Martian Foreground mission. 244. China has announced in 2021 the plan to develop and construct with Russia an international lunar research station towards and into the 2030s. India in 2006 had, among others, expressed its hope to send people to the moon by 2020. 245. Human presence. Map of all soft landing sites on the near side of the moon. Human impact. Pollution and contamination. While the moon has the lowest planetary protection target categorization, its degradation as a pristine body and scientific place has been discussed. 246, and particularly understood regarding keeping the shielded zone of the moon, SZM, of value for astronomy from the moon, free from any radio spectrum pollution, as well as conserving the special and scientifically interesting nature of the moon, in face of prospecting commercial and national projects to claim and exploit moon. 247, while the moon has no significant atmosphere, traffic and impacts on the moon causes clouds of dust that can spread far and possibly contaminate the original state of the moon and its special scientific content. 248. The so-called tardigrade affair of the 2019 crashed Beresheet lander and its carrying of tardigrades has been discussed as an example for lacking measures and lacking international regulation for planetary protection. 247. Space debris beyond Earth around the moon has been considered as a future challenge with increasing numbers of missions to the moon, particularly as a danger for such missions. 249, 250. As such, lunar waste management has been raised as an issue which future lunar missions, particularly on the surface, need to tackle. 251, 252. Remains of human activity, Apollo 17's lunar surface experiments package. 253. Intended remains. Beside the remains of human activity on the moon, there have been some intended permanent installations like the Moon Museum art piece, Apollo 11 goodwill messages, 6 lunar plaques, the Fallen Astronaut Memorial, and other artifacts. 253. Infrastructure. Long-term missions continuing to be active are some orbiters such as the 2009 launched Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiters availing the Moon for future missions, as well as some landers such as the 2013 launched Chang'e 3 with its Lunar Ultraviolet Telescope still operational. 254. 5 retroreflectors have been installed on the Moon since the 1970s and searched for accurate measurements of the physical librations through laser ranging to the Moon. There are several missions by different agencies and companies planned to establish a long-term human presence on the Moon, with the Lunar Gateway as the currently most advanced project as part of the Artemis program. Astronomy from the Moon. For many years, the Moon has been recognized as an excellent site for telescopes. 255. It is relatively nearby. Astronomical seeing is not a concern. Certain craters near the poles are permanently dark and cold, and thus especially useful for infrared telescopes, and radio telescopes on the far side would be shielded from the radio chatter of Earth. 256. The lunar soil, although it poses a problem for any moving parts of telescopes, can be mixed with carbon nanotubes and epoxies and employed in the construction of mirrors up to 50 meters in diameter. 257. A lunar zenith telescope can be made cheaply with an ionic liquid. 258. A photo of the reflector of the lunar laser ranging experiment of Apollo 11, still in use. In April 1972, the Apollo 16 mission recorded various astronomical photos and spectra in ultraviolet with the far ultraviolet camera /spectrograph. 259. The Moon has been also a site of Earth observation, particularly culturally, as in the imagery called Earthrise. Living on the Moon. The only instances of humans living on the Moon have taken place in an Apollo lunar module, for example, during the Apollo 17 mission, for several days at a time. 260. One challenge to astronauts during their stay on the surface is that lunar dust sticks to their suits and is carried into their quarters. Astronauts could taste and smell the dust, calling it the Apollo aroma. 261. This fine lunar dust can cause health issues. 261. In 2019, at least one plant seed sprouted in an experiment on the Chang'e 4 lander. It was carried from Earth along with a small life in its lunar microecosystem. 262. Legal status. Although lunar landers scattered pennants of the Soviet Union on the Moon, and USA flags were symbolically planted at their landing sites by the Apollo astronauts, no nation claims ownership of any part of the Moon's surface. 263. Likewise, any private ownership of parts of the Moon, or as a whole, are considered credible. 264. 265. 266. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty defines the Moon and all outer space as the province of all mankind. 263. It restricts the use of the Moon to peaceful purposes, explicitly banning military installations and weapons of mass destruction. 267. A majority of countries are parties of this treaty. 268. The 1979 Moon Agreement was created to elaborate and restrict the exploitation of the Moon's resources by any single nation, leaving it to a yet unspecified international regulatory regime. 269. As of January 2020, it has been signed and ratified by 18 nations. 270, none of which have human spaceflight capabilities. Since 2020, countries have joined the USA in their Artemis Accords, which are challenging the treaty. The USA has furthermore emphasized in an presidential executive order, encouraging international support for the recovery and use of space resources, that the United States does not view outer space as a global commons and calls the Moon Agreement a failed attempt at constraining free enterprise. 271, 272, with Australia signing and ratifying both the Moon Treaty in 1986 as well as the Artemis Accords in 2020, there has been a discussion if they can be harmonized. 240, in this light an implementation agreement for the Moon Treaty has been advocated for, as a way to compensate for the shortcomings of the Moon Treaty and to harmonize it with other laws, allowing it to be more widely accepted. 239, 241, in the face of such increasing commercial and national interest, particularly prospecting territories, USA lawmakers have introduced in late 2020 specific regulation for the conservation of historic landing sites, 273, and interest groups have argued for making such sites World Heritage Sites, 274, and zones of scientific value protected zones, all of which add to the legal availability and territorialization of the Moon. 247, in 2021 the Declaration of the Rights of the Moon, 275, was created by a group of lawyers, space archaeologists and concerned citizens, drawing on precedents in the rights of nature movement and the concept of legal personality for non-human entities in space. 276, 277, coordination. In light of future development on the Moon, some international and multi-space agency organizations have been created: International Lunar Exploration Working Group, ILUG; Moon Village Association, MVA; International Space Exploration Coordination Group, ISEC. In Culture and Life, the Venus of Norsel, C25,000 BP, holding a crescent-shaped horn. The 13 notches on the horn may symbolize the number of days from menstruation to ovulation, or of menstrual cycles or moons per year. 278, 279, calendar. Since prehistoric times people have taken note of the moon's phases, its waxing and waning, and used it to keep record of time. Tally sticks, notched bones dating as far back as 20-30,000 years ago, are believed by some to mark the phases of the Moon. 197, 280, 281. The counting of the days between the Moon's phases gave eventually rise to generalized time periods of full lunar cycle as months, and possibly of its phases as weeks. 282. The words for the month in a range of different languages carry this relation between the period of the month and the moon etymologically. The English month as well as moon, and its cognates in other Indo-European languages, for example the Latin mensis and ancient Greek, mais, or mn, meaning month. 283, 284, 285, 286. Stem from the Proto-Indo-European pi, root of moon, *me1nt, derived from the pi verbal root *me1, to measure, indicat, ing, a functional conception of the moon, i.e. marker of the month. Compare the English words measure and menstrual. 287, 288, 289, to give another example from a different language family. The Chinese language uses the same word, for moon as well as for month, which furthermore can be found in the symbols for the word week. This lunar timekeeping gave rise to the historically dominant, but varied, unisolar calendars. The 7th century Islamic calendar is an example of a purely lunar calendar, where months are traditionally determined by the visual sighting of the hilal, or earliest crescent moon, over the horizon. 290, of particular significance has been for a range of cultures and calendars the occasion of the full moon, to use or celebrate, particularly around the autumnal equinox, the so-called harvest moon. Furthermore, association of time with the moon can also be found in religion, such as the ancient Egyptian temporal and lunar deity Khonsu. A mooncake, given to people at the Harvest Moon Festival, the second most important celebration of the Chinese lunar calendar, after Chinese New Year. Cultural representation. A lunar deity's Sumerian cylinder seal and impression, dated c.a 2100 BC, of Aa NC, governor of Iakunsin c. 2100 BC. The seated figure is probably King Yornamyu, bestowing the governorship on Aa who is led before him by Lama, protective goddess. Nana /sa register trademark symbol N himself is indicated in the form of a crescent. Luna on the Parabiago plate, tuned a 55th century, featuring the crescent crown and chariot lunar aspect found in different cultures. Rabbits are in a range of cultures identified with the moon, from China to the indigenous peoples of the Americas, as with the rabbit, on the left, of the Maya moon goddess, 6th-9th century. From top, examples of lunar deities featuring around the world recurring aspects, like the crescent, Nana /sin, c. 2100 BC, crescent headgear and chariot, Luna, 2nd 5th century, as well as the moon rabbit, Mayan moon goddess, 6th-9th century. 291. Since prehistoric and ancient times humans have depicted and interpreted the moon, particularly for astrology and religion, A's lunar deity. Moon symbol, planetary color, svg. For the representation of the moon, especially its lunar phases, the crescent symbol has been particularly used by many cultures. In writing systems such as Chinese, the crescent has developed into the symbol, the word for moon, and in ancient Egyptian it was the symbol, which is spelled like the ancient Egyptian lunar deity Ilu, meaning moon. 292. Iconographically, the crescent was used in Mesopotamia as the primary symbol of Nana /sin. 293. The ancient Sumerian lunar deity, 294. 293, who was the father of Inanna /Ishtar, the goddess of the planet Venus, symbolized as the eight-pointed star of Ishtar, 294, 293, and Ucha /Shamash, the god of the sun, symbolized as a disk, optionally with 8 rays, 294, 293, all three often depicted next to each other. Nana was later known as Sin, 293, 294, and was particularly associated with magic and sorcery. 294. The crescent was further used as an element of lunar deities wearing headgears or crowns in an arrangement reminiscent of horns, as in the case of the ancient Greek Selene, 295, 296, or the ancient Egyptian Khonsu. Selene is associated with Artemis and paralleled by the Roman Luna, which both are occasionally depicted driving a chariot, like the Hindu lunar deity Chandra. The different or sharing aspects of deities within pantheons has been observed in many cultures, especially by later or contemporary culture, particularly forming triple deities. The moon in Roman mythology, for example, has been associated with Juno and Diana, while Luna being identified as their by name and as part of a triplet, Diva Triformis, with Diana and Proserpina, Hecate being identified as their binding manifestation as Trimorphos. The star and crescent arrangement goes back to the Bronze Age, representing either the sun and moon, or the moon and planet Venus, in combination. It came to represent the goddess Artemis or Hecate, and via the patronage of Hecate came to be used as a symbol of Byzantium, possibly influencing the development of the Ottoman flag, specifically the combination of the Turkish crescent with a star. 297. Since then the heraldic use of the star and crescent proliferated, becoming a popular symbol for Islam, as the Hilal of the Islamic calendar, and for a range of nations. 298. In Roman Catholic Marian veneration, The Virgin Mary, Queen of Heaven, has been depicted since the late Middle Ages on a crescent and adorned with stars. In Islam, Muhammad is particularly attributed with the moon through